And we're live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I'm just going to do my normal welcome, which is come in the house. Come on in. Come on in. Like, share, and subscribe. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are on YouTube. So I normally get my phone and I normally share as well. And our guest this evening, you all can share too. The more you share, the more the word gets out there, the more people we touch. All right, so come on in, come on in. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful show conversation or live this evening. We have our guests with us, April Foster and Stan Hill. So welcome, and we'll get into you all's bios in a second. Again, I want you to share, and share. But while we're doing that, I want to read. So if you guys haven't heard, I hope you all have heard about the book, the 1619 Project. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to put that little plug out there. This book is kind of a compilation of essays and poems, but it really is the story, life events, a real story of slavery that we didn't get in our educational journeys. So I'm going to read a poem from this book. And is this the point where I'm reading this poem?
Please.
Okay. So I am the American heartbreak, the rock on which freedom stumped its toe, the great mistake that Jamestown made long ago. And this poem is by Langston Hughes. It's called American Heartbreak 1619. And just to elaborate a little bit, I don't think it's really, that hard to figure out. We're talking America, the land of the free, but then we have this deep, dark secret of slavery that we don't want to tell the truth about. So it's talking about slavery being that rock that America stumped its toe on.
Thank you for that piece, honey. Thank you for that piece. I just want to go ahead and jump on in here just a little bit and introduce, our family. Although we are sharing space, digitally through the virtual world, these are not just our guests, but these are our family members. Sister April Foster and Brother Stan Hill. We want to once again thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to share this space with us and to enlighten those who are currently chiming in and watching, and those who will watch the replay. We are, as we know, in the month of what we call Black History Month. And so we can't get enough of sowing the seed and watering that seed of who we are as a people, our culture, our history, because if we don't know where we've come from, how do we know where we're going? Okay, and so today's topic discussion is going to be from Black history to Black legacy, from Black history to Black legacy. Mm-hmm. And so this is imperative because I truly believe, me and my wife believe that if our young generation, our younger people can really start seeing themselves in a different light, just maybe we can reduce the murders that take place, the violence that take place in our communities, and reduce the incarceration rate, right? Induce the rate of single parenting homes. And so it is just really something that we're going to continue to push, continue to pump, because it is our responsibility. We have our very own, I'll go with Brother Stan Hill. Brother Stan Hill, I'm not going to do any justice for neither one of these, but I will share a brief few words about them both. Brother Stan Hill is actually one of my mentors. He's a gentleman that was I was on his path when I was released from prison. And so he has poured into me. He has invested into me. And so I have no shame at saying that this gentleman who works with men in the urban community, who has a strong education background, a former student athlete, my goodness, this brother is a married man. He is a father. He is a grandfather. He is one of the elders. I mean, when I say elders, I know we always try to connect it to church. And although he is a man of faith, but he's not just an elder behind the church walls, but he's an elder within our community that's helping households, that's helping our youth, and that's helping even our adults. And so, man, I know I didn't do it too much justice, but Brother Stan Hill, before I get to Sister April Hill, I'm gonna let my wife take that one over. But before I get to Sister April Hill, tell us a little bit about yourself in your own special way, and welcome once again, welcome.
And thank both of you for inviting me, and it's an honor to be on your show. And I'm absolutely flattered by what you said, Earl. And thank you for those kind words. Because I've been in this business for 42 years now, and hearing you say that makes it real. Because you can do something for 42 years and it can produce absolutely nothing. Or you can see the fruits of your labor in real life and real talk, sitting next to his wife. And I know I'm smart enough to know this. Most people, when somebody is successful and they've helped them along the way, when they first meet them, they think they didn't have an impact. Mm-hmm. And then when they meet them halfway on their journey, they think they're the ones that turned them around. And then if they meet them at the end of the journey, they think they're the one that delivered them. And the fact of the matter is everybody along the way. It's that whole chain and that link. And without that chain and that link, and when it's broke, there's that loss and that disconnection from family values and hope. So a little bit about me, I grew up in a 2-family home. My mother and father, my father worked for 50 years as an orderly and held down 2 jobs. And I was the youngest of 5 children, and he held down those 2 jobs until I graduated from high school. And so I learned to see what it looks like for a man to get up when he don't want to go to work and go out in the cold and do those things and go to bed early because he had his good night shift. And I saw him kiss and hug his wife every night and her take care of him. And so I saw that in the home, and we had responsibilities. We had chores and things. So there was a strong family values. And it was like that in the neighborhood. We knew our neighbors. The neighbors knew us. The neighbors, if they saw you doing things, they would say something to you and maybe even discipline you. So you knew that people cared about you. And that's the kind of neighborhood I grew up in. And so my family was always teaching the one aspect to us as children. Doesn't matter what you do in life, but what matters is how you interact with other people and how you make a difference in how they perceive you in the world. So people will often forget the things you say to help them. People even forget the things you do to help them along the way, but they will never forget the way you make them feel.
Wow.
So if you connect to that, and that's a spirituality, that's a spiritual part. And that used to be prevalent in the Black community. You see somebody you don't know, the head nod, the fist big, what's up? Those things show that commonality. That's the kind of thing, family values I came up through. My sister was I had a sister. She was a student. My older brother was a star athlete, and I think he still holds scoring records and titles for Minnesota State high school basketball. My other older brother, was a child prodigy and performed music at the age of 8. And has been on world stages with Ike and Tina Turner, B.B. King, and so all those things poured into me. I became a student athlete. I was a good student, and I became a musician and went to college on a music and athletic scholarship. And that started me down the educational path, and I still use those tools today. That's a little bit about me.
All right, all right, all right. Well, we got more to come. We got more to come. We have Miss Grambling State University, go Tigers, the black and gold all the way.
Right?
We got, I have to say this, and I want my wife to go ahead and chime on in. But this is no longer literally my sister, you know what I'm saying? But this is my cousin. This is my cousin here. This is my cousin through marriage. Her brother, good friend of mine, and my brother through Christ Jesus, married my first cousin, Gina, who is now Gina Foster, and there they are, Elwood A. Foster, speak fam. He said, hey, there he is right there. How you doing, cousin? And so I'm going to turn it over to my wife to say a few things as she introduces our cousin, and then Sister April Foster, go Tigers in your own special way. Share what you would like to share, and talk back to us.
So before you get in, it is an honor to introduce you. Of course, before we were halfway related, right? We were great friends. Went to high school together, but also went to church together. And one thing that I've always admired about you, April, is that you have always found things for your hands to do. You were always helping in whatever capacity you could help, always in the community. She's going to give her bio, but she has a real impact in the community with our kids and students of color that we need, they need. So it is much appreciated. But again, great friend of mine, known her for many years. And so I'm gonna go ahead and have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what you've got going on, Miss Grambling State.
Well, thank you so much. I want to say Onika so bad, but that's not how I know her. I know her as Nika. And so thank you so much. I'm very honored to be on this broadcast with you and your husband. And I just want to say that even though Nika gave me a very good introduction, I miss our days together in Sister. She knows what I'm talking about. And we did some good work, and I'll talk a little about that in my bio. So my name is April Foster. I am a HBCU graduate of Grambling State. I have a degree in English, and I will say I never had any thoughts of going to a PWI. I never had any interest because in our household, I come from a 2-parent household too, Brother Stan. And so I definitely saw all those things you said, a hardworking father, the love of my parents and family. And my dad did not graduate from college, so he was the one that I will say always was pushing us to do higher ed. And he was the one that was like, you are going to college, you are going to go to HBCU. And my mother was a graduate of Grambling State. And so I just knew I would automatically go there. And I loved it. And students in the North, that is one of the things I say, you need to go to HBCU so that you can hone in on those things that you need to hone in on to be who you are. But then I came back up here to this code and decided to get my master's at the University of Minnesota, which was a different experience as an adult, but it was worth it. And it was good. And I know Nika from the community. I did a group at Hospitality House called Sister. And when I decided to venture out, she was one of the first people that was like, I need help with these girls, these 6th through 12th grade young Black girls living in the urban city, dealing with things that they didn't want to discuss with their mothers or caregivers. And one thing I could say about Nika, she jumped in and she was real, and they loved on her and she loved on them. And one thing that I will say I learned about working in community, we all can't do it all. Somebody has to water, somebody has to weed, somebody has to till, and you have to have the humility and ability to ask for help. You really do. You cannot do it all. And so I miss those days because we spent many days with those girls and did a lot of community service and poured into them. And even to this day, I know she's still in contact with some through Facebook, and they still talk about some of our most phenomenal woman situations
Yes.
and some of the things we did, and they miss those things, and many of them are adults and mothers in their own right. But I see all the watering that we did and planting, and the word is true. It doesn't fall on shallow ground. It will grow and it will produce. And so I'm grateful. And so I'm just so grateful to be on here and talk about HBCUs and colleges and all the things, and it's Black History Month. So I'm going to try to keep my composure, because I'm very excited anytime I can talk about my college experience and try to help someone else. I'm very excited. So that's a little bit about me. I don't know if I said everything, but I think I did.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you both for sharing just a glimpse. I know you. I mean, you shared a lot, but I know that you guys could go a whole lot deeper. Once again, we know that it's important for us who have grabbed the mantle and are running with the mantle to see a different narrative of what media portrays about us as a people. We also know that, once again, I will reiterate what I said earlier. I truly believe that if we can continue to sow these seeds and water these seeds within our community, then we will see the fruit of our labor, but it also will combat against some of this nonsense that goes forth in our communities, okay? We talked about 2 weeks ago. We talked about blackness is beautiful, and we were talking about how our daughters in their youth are not bitchs, right? And they are not whores, and they are not trash, and they are not objects. And so often, some men, not all men, and some youth, not all youth, we talk and interact with our daughters as if they are, and this music doesn't help the case either. Anytime you can have a female identify and call them own self a bitch, you got a problem. And then when you got a daughter that's listening to their own mom refer to herself as a bitch, we have a serious problem. And so when another man mistreats her or treats her as an object, she accepts that. And so we want to go ahead and combat against that foolishness as well. And so we're going to get off into our question for today. Our questions for this evening, rather. In your own words, who would you say is your favorite historian and why? Brother Stan, who would you say is your favorite historian and why? I think you're on mute, sir.
Yeah, I was. Excuse me. My favorite historian, hands down, is Dr. John Heinrich Clarke. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but one of the reasons I love him is because he talks about the plight of Black people from a historical standpoint, even digging in deep into the rewritten version of the Bible and how history has been rewritten and revised, so that when you get to the point you see the end result of a young Black woman seeing herself as a bitch, or excuse me for saying the word out loud, but
you're good.
You're a bitch or a hoe, and that becomes the norm and accepted, and that's the mantle that she carries instead of a prince or a princess comes out of centuries and centuries of training and retraining and doing cognitive restructuring of the way people think. And if you can control the way people think, you can train, you can control the way they behave. If I can control the way they think and behave, I can control them for centuries and generations. And so it plays out. And so Dr. John Heinrich Clarke talks about the history of people of color as it goes even back to the Egyptians and how they had slaves, and slavery was not a new thing on the face of the planet. But what happened in America was new with slavery was the invention of racism.
Mhm.
Slavery was never based on race. It was always based on I conquered you, I own this, and you can work your way out of it. And there was some equality to slavery. And slavery was a mechanism that all civilizations used. But in the United States of America, race became the card, and then they told Black people that they don't have a history. And so if you erase your history, then that tells you that you have contributed nothing to to mankind, and that automatically takes you down to the level of subhuman. And then it'll play out if people don't know the truth about where they came from, who they came from, and don't know the power of the strength of the spirit of a people that it took to overcome such grave, we want to say torture. We want to use the words because I don't understand why we still don't use words like torture, use words like kidnapping, and use words like blatant murder and it to be a part of the institution of which America was built, and to deny the fact that the infrastructure of the very most powerful civilization in modern history, its infrastructure was built by the person who they claim was lazy and shiftless.
Come on now.
We go. Brother Hill, Brother Stan Hill. We're gonna pause right there so that we can digest that.
Yeah, because you said a whole lot.
So that we could just take that in, because what you just got through saying, Brother Stan Hill, is raw truth.
Yes.
It's raw truth, and it's truth that we need to hear. Because if we don't know the false narrative, all right, of what they're trying to get us, of what white supremacy and Europeans want us to adopt, then how will we know what to combat against, right? And so I appreciate that, but I want to get to Sister April Foster here. And then even though I have these questions right here, I think we got to go back and discuss that a little bit more deeper. But Sister April Foster, in your own words, who's your favorite historian and why?
This question, when we talked about it a little bit the other night, I was like, oh, I like that person, but there's somebody else that I really like. So I'm gonna just I cannot. I should have went before Mr. Stan, because he just didn't. I just want to just have a conversation offline with you, Brother Stan, because you really set it off. So thank you for that. I'm going to say Ella Baker, only because there are many, but I've chose her one because she was part of the civil rights, and a lot of people don't mention her, talk about her, but she really did a lot of work around building community and using your voice in the community and self-advocacy. That much of what Brother Hill talked about is, to say that Black people are lazy or shiftless, and we have invented so many things that make the world go round, literally make the world go round, adds to who she was. And she really, appreciated and had a passion for education. And, she was one of the people that really wanted brown people to go after their dreams, whatever those dreams were in education, and not let anybody stop you. And if you couldn't do it in education, what could you do in your community to build? And that just speaks to some of the passions in my own life. So that's why I chose her. And recently there was a school in Minneapolis that changed their name to her. And, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I hope those students really know, changing it from a white man's name to a brown person's name, and a civil rights leader. And to even think about the civil rights, and I'm sure Nika has studied it, Earl has studied it, Brother Hill, I studied it. I don't know if I could have made it through. I really don't, because they endured many, many things so that we can be afforded the lifestyles we live and work and places we go. And I think sometimes our students and our young people, and even some people who have not been awakened, don't even realize the many things that we take for granted. Someone lost their life or were imprisoned, and those are the voices and names that sometimes we don't even know, but they were a part of the struggle. So I'm not amiss to even think about them. I'm very aware of, some of those energies that follow us and we don't even know who they are, but they were there, among the Dr. Kings and other people. They were there too.
Wow, that's powerful.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for that. Honey, what are your thoughts? Because we've heard a lot. I mean, I could just go ahead and end this broadcast and go backstage and just have this discussion in private. But I think that I'm curious. What are you thinking? And then I think we should get some comments that are in the comment box.
Okay. So great. Both choices were great, but I think we do need to go back and we need to talk about what Mr. Hill said. Which was the conditioning of the mind, and how if you teach somebody to forget their past, forget where they came from, how can they know where they're going? And so as he was talking, what was coming up for me is, because I'm an educator, and I'm always going to go there, because I'm an educator, when we think about school and what our kids are lacking today, what I lacked in school, there was no representation. There was no, it's almost like we were non-existent. And so it's by, when he said what he said, I'm thinking, yeah, because it's all by design. It was meant, you know what I mean, for us to not know who we were and where we came from, and not have any pride in our history. It was erased on purpose.
And yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. Let's get some comments here. Let's get some comments here. Honey, why don't you go ahead and see what's going on here.
Mr. Norman, hey Norman.
How you doing,
thank you for your comment. It's always about conditioning the mind. If I can get you to believe whatever, I got you, and that is absolutely true. Absolutely the truth. What we have Alan, Mr. Foster saying, tell it.
Pastor.
And your brother says Ella Baker is a great choice.
Absolutely. So thank you for that, honey. And thank you too for dropping these jewels. And you said something, Brother Hill. Once again, this discussion is titled From Black History to Black Legacy. And so we might as well just go ahead and continue unraveling a little bit more history. Brother Hill said, before they begin to indoctrinate us with their education and their information that they want to pump into us, right? They had to break us down. All right. So they went over into a land, right, and conquered it by way of raping, ravishing. The Old Testament word is ravishing, Ravishing, which simply means rape, raping men, raping kids, raping our women, right? Also killing, all right? And so when you look at those slave ships, on how they were stacked on top of each other and chained and shackled, and many didn't make it. Many did not make the journey from their homeland, from our homeland, over to this country over here that was stolen to begin with, right? From other race of people, natives, right? And so when you want to break someone down, you use violence, and you strip them of their identity, you strip them of their language, you strip them of their culture, you strip them of family, you strip them of their complete makeup of who they are as a whole, and then you begin forming and shaping them with the lies so that they'll go ahead and carry out what you are trying to build and have established here. And so, Brother Hill, I want to ask you this question today. How is that still impacting our youth today, and even some of us as adults?
Well, let's look at the media right now and what's in the news, and then with the violence of the police and the corruption from the highest levels of power, and they say these are the people we depend on, right, for our survival. Well, if you go back to the Emancipation of Proclamation and people were freed, slaves were freed. You can no longer be a slave in the continental United States, except for one clause, which says, unless you have a criminal history and conviction in your life, then you can be treated as a slave and get second-class citizenship. So they created what they called at the time a police force, and what they were the former overseers of slave plantations, and they were arresting people for vagrancy and laws that said you had to be able to read and write. So slaves didn't know how to read and write, so then they were arrested and put into camps. They were concentration camps, but they called them work camps. But it was the same as Auschwitz and the other concentration camps that the Germans did on the German folk. And so you fast forward that the penal system was created after the abolition of slavery to keep people of color and people who are in poverty in that cycle of going to prison and second-class citizenship, and is being played out today. If you go to prison, any prison in the country, you won't see that Black people are the majority there, but you will see they were disproportionately the majority as it pertains to per capita. And it plays out like, for example, in Minnesota, we represent maybe 7%, maybe 9% of the population, but we represent 49% of those incarcerated. And that is playing out today. Our role was for free labor, and prison is about free labor. Make no question about it. It is $1 billion industry, and they sell products and it's paid people pennies, and they sell making millions, and it's playing out today.
I appreciate that, Brother Hill. That's spot on. I want to ask Sister April Foster, with the history that we just heard and have been discussing, in your own words, why do you think it is important for our youth so that they don't fall into the traps that I myself fell in, all right, being incarcerated from age 20 to 26 and having to walk off intensive supervised release, which is a type of parole, and then regular parole. Why is it important for our youth, our young people, to know this history?
Well, I think Brother Hill said it earlier. You know, if you don't know who you are, you're not going to be able to know where you're going. You have to know who you are, the good, the bad, the indifference, and also have the ability to see yourself for what you can be. Mm-hmm. And, you know, something that I love to hear you talk more about is your own story, because we can get caught up in those cycles. We all have been in different cycles in our life, whether it be poverty, whether it be educational gaps. We've all been a part of them. But once you realize you're part of the system, you have to make a decision right then to say, am I going to stay in the system, or am I going to get out of this cycle? And once you make a decision to get out, then you are learning yourself and learning that, oh, this is a setup. So I don't want to be part of that setup. And that's why the youth need to know, you know, all the things about history that, like Nika said, that they don't teach us in school. They still don't teach it in school. They still don't teach it in school. Now, there are some educators like your wife and other people that step out of that and say, I'm gonna just go for it, but not enough. And some of them are not brown. So they can be met with a lot of, you know, confrontation, but they have to know it so that when they're making decisions for their life, they can say, if this person did it, I can do it. Yes. And not to say that they're not going to make mistakes, because I think sometimes when we talk about history, people forget there were many mistakes made in the civil rights movement, many, but that didn't stop the push. It still has to go forth. We still got to be able to ride on the buses. They did all these things, and I think that sometimes in my experience, because I work in middle school, and Nika's worked in middle school, sometimes they get so caught up in, but they did this to us. Okay, they did. But what can we do to fight against it? We got to pull together. We got to know what's good for us and pull together at the times we need to, and then combat the system. And our young people, they do a good job of it in instances like Brother Stan said, with the things happening in Minneapolis and all over the world when George Floyd was murdered. We all came together, but we need to come together on a lot of other issues as well. But knowing our history can help us do that, can really help us do that. And we have to be more transparent, like you said, about there were many lives that came over on that boat, but not all of them were alive when they came over.
That's right.
And they were forced and they were kidnapped. And we need to tell our young people about how they systematically broke up the Black family and how we are constantly trying to get it back together, and how the system also has degraded and devalued the Black man and pushed the Black woman up in a place where it is hard as a single mother to combat some of those things, because the system is like, well, you don't need him because you can do it, when that is not the natural order of the family.
Girl, to set up, girl, to set up.
I wanna.
So once you know that, you got to be able to combat it, and we have to tell our young people, don't fall for the traps, the snares, the detours. Stay on the path that you know, and you got to know. So that means it's something that we all know that go to church. You can't just take what they say on the pulpit. You got to read it for yourself, and that's the same thing with history. Don't just take what your teacher tells you. Take some time and read and research and do what you got to do.
That's right.
I like that. So, Sister April, I want to stay with you real quick, and then I'm going to bounce it back to Brother Stan Hill. Thank you both for that, for this wisdom and the jewels that you're dropping. Sister Worlds is saying, talk about it. So you got some folk that's saying, come on with it. Sister April, you talked about not using the life events that took place with slavery, with the civil rights movement, etc. Okay, Juneteenth, the whole nine, as an excuse to not be victorious or be overcomers, or to triumph, if you would. And so, for those of us who may struggle with getting over hardship, if you would, what are some steps that you can share with us on the platform today, and those who are viewing? What are some steps? How do we get over? And then I want Brother Hill to take the floor next when you finish, if that's okay. How do we get over? Now, how do we get over as a people?
How do we get over as a people? Well, number one, you got to know that you need to get over. You got to know that you need to get. That's number one. You got to recognize.
Can I do this right here?
Yes. You got to recognize that. When I heard you ask the question, you first got to recognize that you got to get over. So once you recognize that, step number two is, who can you seek out in your community, your church family, your work community, that you admire them, you want them to mentor you, and that there is a humility in asking for help and saying, I see, Nika, you done went from this to special ed to this, and now you're going to be a principal. How did you get there? And you got to be willing to put in the work to ask and have a mentor. You need a mentor, because you're not going to be able to do this on your own. And number three, listening to the hard conversations of that person saying, you misstepped there, now you got to go back and do this, or that's not the decision I would have made, so now we got to do this. Because there are critical conversations that happen when you have made a decision as a people to say, we're going to move together. And I have to also, I would say, be open to, it doesn't have to look and feel and sound like I think, as long as I trust the leadership. I have to trust that we are going over the mountain. We don't have to go over it the way I need to go over it, but I have to trust who's in leadership. And that word trust in the Black community, I don't really want to get into it because we don't got enough time, but we have to be willing to understand each other, that if you are my leader and I have made a commitment to follow you and Nika, I have to know I'm following. I
That's
can't
right.
get deterred by Billy Bob over here saying, well, they ain't really using the money right. I'm following them. I made a decision. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have no evidence or proof of that. I'm following. And we got to know what we know about leadership and do what we need to do, because a lot of times we're going the right path, but Billy Bob over here says something, and then our little brains get to saying, well, yeah, and it's the little things that tear down what we should be focusing on.
Yep.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Well said. Well said. Thank you, Brother Stan Hill. Man, how would you build upon steps to not allowing the adversity to hold us back from the promised land?
You're muted.
You're muted, brother.
There we go.
Yeah.
First of all, April, Miss Foster, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's running in my head right now as I'm trying to answer Earl's question, but because that one stuck. Ooh, I tell you, some of us as children have seen things no child should ever have to see.
That's right.
Some of us children have been misinformed by misinformed people.
Come on.
And some of us as children have been betrayed by the very people who are on this earth who are supposed to protect us. And some of us as children were asked to take on an adult role long before had an understanding of how to navigate an adult world. And they're still trying to figure that out. And even as young adults, there's still that wounded child inside who doesn't know how to do it, but they're in a young adult body, and people are expecting them to perform that way, and they don't have the emotional intelligence sometimes to be able to pull that thing off. And so one of the first things I would say to the youth is you question everything.
Come on.
And everybody. Because you, whether you believe you can do something or whether you believe you can't do something, either way, you're right. So you got to believe in something. So why not believe in you? Question everybody, find out what is your vision, what is your passion, and then do that internal self-inventory. Do you have the skill set to pull that thing off? And if you don't, where do you go get it? Find somebody that does do it. What does it look like? What does it talk like? What does it walk like? Immerse yourself in it and have the courage to go hard, because you got to realize if you grew up in hard times and you're still walking and talking, that means you are the creme of the la creme, because everybody didn't make it.
Come on.
There are over 100 million people who were thrown overboard during the transatlantic passage. 100 million slaves died. 100 million. That's a lot of people compared to us being how much of the population here in America. So if there were 200 million black folks in America right now, it would be a different scene, wouldn't it?
Come on.
So we're looking at those who did make it. Those are the strongest of the strong. And even through the oppressor tried to suppress, what he really did was he created a stronger race than he imagined. He created those who overcome diphtheria, they overcome harsh conditions, diarrhea, and all those things, and just all kind of diseases, and still made it. And still now you got folks who are. Look at our young folks today; they are more equipped to run the world than in any other group of people in the history. They're more ingenious and creative. They're more influential. The way they walk and the way they talk and their swag has captured the imagination of the world. You can go to China and they try to look like they came from Brooklyn. You know, and that's how influential they are. And the only way they can realize that if someone will show them the real mirror and hold them up and tell them the truth. You know, the truth about you is that you are greater and stronger than the things you're being told, and you're stronger than your past, because you came from the strength, the powerful people who made it through the hardships of mankind. Nothing ever existed like slavery in America in the history of mankind. And still here we're walking and talking and on a podcast talking about Black history. Well, Black history is American history, and our children are that history and the future history to be written. Long before, after we're gone, they will have a history of what they've written and doing things that we can only imagine. I'm excited about our youth. I think they're more intelligent and learning things that I will never know.
No, hold on. I'm just gonna. I just want to take a small moment of silence and just let that settle. You just gotta let that. You just gotta let that resonate. He said, "Black history is American history." Now, you know, honey, what are you hearing? You're over here bubbling over here.
I mean, the conversation is so good between April and Stan. This conversation is so good. Nothing but nuggets. Nothing but nuggets. But the last thing you said, or the last thing you repeated, that Black history is American history. Let's just keep it real. Come on, America wouldn't be here if we didn't build it. It was built on the backs of Blacks. Come on. Don't try to erase, because if you try to erase me, then you got to erase America. You got to erase it all because we built it. Don't play.
You know, thank you, honey. She's excited.
She's excited. So good.
Let me. And you know what though? This is why we as a people need to be in spaces together to hear the truth. Because what the truth does, it inspires us on the inside to go out and do things on the outside. I'm going to say that again. The truth ought to inspire us on the inside until it just bubbles up so much, it just overflows. Man, I feel the preacher coming out of here. You know, it says, my cup runneth over. Okay. And so when you take in the truth, all right, and it starts to inspire you on the outside, now we are held accountable to do something about it on the outside. Right. Okay, so in this small time here, because I know Sister Foster has to go, and I want you to put in the plug on what you're doing. I know you're doing big things in the community, and big things as entrepreneurs, and so I am being mindful and respectful of both of you all's time, but this last question here, dealing with from Black history to Black legacy, I have to ask the question, how do we heal from the George Floyds, the Dante Wrights, the Breonna Taylors, the Ahmaud Arbery's, the Jamari Rice, even we're killing ourselves. See, I always throw that other piece in there too, because I have to say this. I have to say this. I'm one of those individuals, and I know some are going to disagree with me. I'm also saying we have to stop killing ourselves. I'm going to say that again. Yes, we're being gunned down in the street by the police. Yes, we are being murdered, and folks are being sentenced. All right. But we also have to do our part, and part of doing our part is stop killing each other. And killing each other is not just with a gun. Killing each other also is what we say about one another. Killing each other is when we rob folks. Stop robbing your brother. You know, you heard it today. We heard it today. If you don't know how to, get $1 and save $1, don't go rob your brother. Go ask them on how they got it, if it's the legal way, and then you go ahead and duplicate that or partner together, collaborate together, and change the narrative in your life. I'm going to tell you another way we kill each other. We're out here, we're getting high, we're getting drunk, and we're sleeping with multiple women, and we're having multiple babies, and we're not taking care of our business like we ought to take care of our business. We need to stop killing each other and start continuing to work together with one another. So I'll have to ask the question, with everything that's taken place, and if we're going to carry the legacy of our ancestors, if we're going to carry the legacy of our parents and our grandparents, the elders, what are some steps we can do towards healing as a people so that we may walk out the legacy that we've been commissioned to do? Sister April.
I'm gonna piggyback off one of the words you said. You said our ancestors. Our ancestors were very simple. And it would be good if we could get back to those healing circles, those moments where we came together, just us, and had the people in our communities that we know, see, and love to lead us through the healing. We don't need anyone else to come in and heal us or help us other than the Lord. But we need each other. We need to be able to look in each other's eyes and say just what you said, not just killing from the police brutality, but each other, just what you said, running each other down. If selling drugs to one another, pimping each other out, all those things that run down our community and kill us in ways that are far more reaching to our children than just the George Floyd. We need healing circles. We need places that are sacred, that what happens here stays here. It is not a time to be putting it on social media. It's not a media frenzy. It's not, girl, last night I did this TikTok in my healing group. No, it is sacred. When you come in here, we are gathering our minds to heal and knowing that it's a process, that we start the steps together, and your journey of healing may take you over here and my journey may take me over there. But when we come back together, we're going to be healed and whole, and I'm going to help you on your journey. And being able to know that healing looks different for everybody. And when I say we don't need others, I mean, we have everything we need in our community. We have the nurses, we have the doctors, we have the therapists, we have the preachers, we have the people that innately have those skills. And some don't even have those certification or degrees, but you innately have it. We need to get back to those things, because those are the things that helped us when we were oppressed during the civil rights. When I hear us talk about George Floyd, all I think about is post-traumatic stress of our young people and how they are desensitized to anything that happens, death, whether it be someone they know or something. It's just like, oh, okay, I cry today and tomorrow I'm going back to school. No. All of that is ravishing our poor hearts, that when it comes time to build a relationship with a young woman or man, I don't see them as that. I see them as, I'm going to get what I'm going to get. If a baby come from it, okay, I'm going to do what I can do. And if I don't, oh, well. If you are healed, you will not approach that situation like that. When you are healed, you are valued. You value others. So the healing is within us, and we need to decide as a community, as a population, when and how it's going to be done, and who's going to be the voice to say, we are going to do this. And if you're not going to be a part of it, you're not going to be allowed to tear us down. Because we moving. If you don't want to be a part of the healing movement, then this ain't the space for you. And that's okay. But you're not going to tear down what we're trying to do. And we have to do it, Brother Earl, because we are moving out of the way. And we have to bring these young people up so that they are healed and whole, and know that activism just is not when there's a camera on you. It has to be a part of your daily, everyday life.
My goodness, I love this. I love it. Powerful, powerful. Brother Hill, we're going to put it on you. Sister Foster, do you want to put a plug in real quick before I give it over, before we turn the floor back over to Brother Hill?
I'll put a little plug in. So this leads into what Minister O talked about. I took over my mom's nonprofit as she transitioned from this life to her resting life. So she had a program called Daughters, and we run it every third Saturday of the month at 1156 Aldridge Avenue North. And I will send the information to Nika. It is free. It's from any person who identifies as a woman from 9 to 99. We are there to support, empower, to enrich your lives. But we are going to be, like Nika said, we are real. We are not trying to pass you off in no Kool-Aid. What we serve you is realism, and the cost is free. All you have to do is show up and be willing to listen and learn, and enjoy some other women in the city. So that's my little plug. Thank you.
Sister Foster, if you don't mind, share that on the One and Done page so that folks, when they go visit that on Facebook, they have that information too. Use that space to go ahead and reach some folk if you like. Brother Hill, what's up, brother? Talk to us.
So the question, if I got it right, is how can we encourage the young people today to continue the legacy?
How can we heal? What are some steps?
How can we heal?
Yep. And that part you said, yep.
So one of the things that I want to go back to what April said, the healing circles, and going back to the traditional way the family structure and the union and community interacts and survives, like it does in affluential communities. There is solidarity inside the home. So if there's solidarity and peace in the home, there is solidarity and peace in the block. If there's solidarity and peace in the block, there's solidarity and peace in the community. If there's solidarity and peace in the community, there's solidarity and in the people that live in it. And what we're seeing now is the tear down and breakdown because of the absence of those other things. And so what I would, the young folks, they have, in spite of the absence of those things, have still found a way to navigate that in a way as quicker than ever possible to bring an event together, utilizing social media. You no longer have to beat the drum and wait for things to happen. We can hit that right away. But what needs to happen, I believe, and this is just my opinion, we got to learn to get rid of the anger. Because with the anger fuels the fears and phobias of both people who are in conflict. And if we bring anger to the table, then we've lowered ourselves to the same tactics of those who we are trying to eradicate. So, and with anger becomes a distancing between those who are even collaborating as you. You got different factions and they think they're opposing something as opposed to bringing their efforts together and having a common goal or an enemy. And then seeing that in the strength of themselves as coming together. But at the same time, it has to be, I believe, going back to, it's an old cliche, it takes a village to raise a child. What does our village look like right now? And you'll see, if you examine the village, you will see the children that is producing. So I have to look at myself as of someone in the village. What am I doing to help do that? And I think everyone has to be able to do that and develop, like Abel said, connect with young folks so that they're not afraid to come ask for help and not shut them down because he got his pants sagging, his hat on backwards. I even believe there's some folks that look like us that thinks he's a thug because he dresses that way. There's some people that think that she's a B or an H and she's looking for something because she's wearing today's fashion when she's just playing out what young girls do when they're trying to find their way and they're experimenting with who they are as young girls. And it's being seen somehow it's more promiscuous when it's a little black girl, but it's cute when Susie does it. And so it just to teach, helping them to see the strength in who they are, and to also to allow them. There are young folks. They don't have the answer. They're going to make mistakes. I did. I was fortunate that I had an older brother and an older sister and two older brothers and a mom and a dad who weren't afraid to thump my head and say, what's wrong with you? And then you get a chance to know what really tough love is, and not be afraid of what love is. Love is the key. Going back, you think of how did our ancestors overcome the harshest conditions? They did it out of love. And even to this day, the Black America has never organized themselves and waged war against the nation that oppressed them. We are still helping to build a bigger society and a greater society. And that's because we love America and we love, even we were taught to love our, when the preacher went up there and said, if you love your enemy, we really took that to heart. It was the spirituality and the church and the realness of it that brought people through all of that. And I'm just going to say, as a believer, my Lord and Savior Christ Jesus is the reason I'm sitting here talking about what I do, and I can do all things
That's right.
who strengthens me. I tell you just a little something else about me that I didn't share with you. I was a star athlete, went to college on an academic and music scholarship, and came home on summer break. And I was I was arrested, tried, and convicted of a crime I didn't commit, and sentenced to 26 years in prison.
Mhm.
And after 2.5 years in prison, I proved my innocence and was released with a commuted sentence. And for the last 42 years, I've been doing what I can to help people who get out of prison overcome that and find immediate employment. I have one of the highest retention rates in the nation. My program is called the Skills Training Advocacy Network, LLC. I have a 48% job placement rate, 9 times the national average, and I have a 93% retention rate over a year. And I serve people who've just been released from prison in 2 weeks. If they come to me, they'll be working week 3. And
Come on.
exception. And I know that's only possible because of what God put in my heart
That's
and
right.
the abilities that He gave me and taught me how to use those skills and talents and not to be afraid to ask for help.
All right. You know what? Hey, we love y'all.
Yes.
We love y'all, and we're not gonna take up any more time. We have reached 7 p.m. I know Sister April Foster, she has her ministry going on right now, and we're gonna end right here. Why don't you read this for us right here?
You can't really know where you're going until you know where you have been, Maya Angelou.
All right, from Black history to Black legacy, we say we love you all. God bless you all, and we know that you were blessed, richly blessed. Watch the replay. Till next time.
Watch the replay. Bye, y'all. Amazing.